Previously on Fap or NoFap.
One of the areas that I have real concern about, just because I hear about it so often, and it wasn't an issue when I was growing up, is a lot of young guys in particular approach me because they're watching a lot of really intense pornography. Pornography, it creates a strong dopamine rush that in some ways can overwhelm the dopamine system. So a lot of young guys are getting all this arousal from watching other people have sex. And then they're in the real world scenario and it's like, wait, you're no longer third personing this, you're actually in this scene. And it's completely collapsing them. So I was starting to get a lot of questions. I was kind of surprised. They were asking whether or not masturbation was bad. They were asking whether or not masturbation with ejaculation was particularly bad.
There's lots of benefits to masturbation. In addition to pleasure, people report improved mood, better sleep, and even more focus. And why is that? And this is not surprising because when you masturbate, you release a number of feel-good hormones, including dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and even the feel-good endorphins. And masturbation is the ultimate form of safe sex. It not only allows you to experience pleasure, but also allows you to familiarize yourself with what makes you excited and gives you pleasure, so that you can communicate that with your partner. It also allows some people to experience pleasure without the added stress of intimacy or needing to perform under pressure. The number one myth that I hear about masturbation is that masturbation will make you go blind or have hairy palms. And this is just, in fact, not true. If almost 90% of the population is masturbating, well then we'd have a lot of blind people and a lot of hairy palms. Well, that brings me to myth number 2. Masturbation does not cause erectile dysfunction. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Masturbation, when leading to orgasm, actually causes contraction of the pelvic floor muscles. And these pelvic floor muscles are super important for having orgasms and also being able to experience pleasure. So when you're actively exercising these muscles, you will have better orgasms and probably a better sex life. However, there are 2 caveats to this. The number one caveat is pornography. So there has been an increase in erectile dysfunction in young men, which correlates with the rise in accessibility to pornography. Watching pornography can actually desensitize a person to normal sexual stimulation and lead to unrealistic expectations of what a sexual encounter should look like. I get a lot of young patients who have performance anxiety and have issues with erections, and when you think about it, the stress of performing then leads to poor ability to have erections when you have sex, which then compounds that performance anxiety, and you keep going in this vicious cycle. So actually, if you're able to masturbate and get yourself to have erections, that can actually give you some confidence so that when you are going forward with a sexual encounter, you will have the confidence to know that you are capable of getting an erection. And the next caveat is guilt. If you experience guilt from masturbation because of your personal beliefs, then that can be really detrimental to your sexual function and in fact has been linked to depression and anxiety. And it is totally okay to abstain from masturbation if it makes you feel bad. But if it's something that you want to work through, you may seek out a sex therapist to help you work through those issues of guilt associated with masturbation.
If an individual repeatedly engages in this circuitry, let's say masturbation and pornography with increasingly potent forms of stimulation that are on a screen, a couple of things happen. First of all, what's being reinforced? What's being reinforced is a high dopaminergic response to watching other people engage in sexual behavior, which is very different than being in a first-person sexual experience. Okay, so right there, you know that what's being reinforced is not actually any kind of improvement in communication skills. It's voyeurism. As these questions started to come in more and more, I started to realize there was a lot of kind of undertones of people talking about fear of or experience with sexual dysfunction that clearly pornography can lead to. And here I'm specifically talking about males. Masturbation and pornography are potently tapping into the dopamine system and can undermine the very processes of what I consider healthy processes of finding a mate, dating, communication.
Myth number 3 is that when you masturbate too much, it reduces your sensitivity. And that's not exactly true. So there's a couple things that can happen. If you're masturbating a typical normal way, then if you use a certain device or a certain motion, that your body can actually become habituated or get into a habit of feeling that particular sensation resulting in orgasm. And when you do something differently, it can make it harder for you to orgasm. So it's important to use similar techniques to what you would do in a sexual encounter, or consider using less pressure or less vibration if that's not what you're going to expect during intercourse. Also, sometimes if you are using a significant amount of pressure, stroking, or folding the penis one way or the other, this can affect the sensation of your penis or your clitoris in women. So you do need to be careful and thoughtful in how you masturbate. Number 4, you can masturbate too much. And in fact, this is not true for the large majority of people. Even if you're masturbating daily for pleasure or for stress relief or enjoyment, that's okay. The times when it becomes problematic is if it's interfering with your day-to-day life. If you find that you have a strong compulsion to masturbate that you can't ignore, or you're skipping out on normal activities to masturbate, or skipping out on being intimate with your partner just to masturbate, these are signs that you may be masturbating too frequently. Partnered relationships masturbate separately or together, and this is not a reflection of the amount of love your partner has for you or vice versa. This is an activity that actually may improve your sex life overall and should have no reflection on your level of intimacy or bond as a couple. And our last myth, myth number 6, is that masturbation lowers testosterone. And in fact, there is no data that suggests that masturbation lowers your testosterone level. In fact, when you orgasm or during masturbation, your testosterone level actually goes up. And after you complete the orgasm, the testosterone level goes back down to a normal level. It does not actually deplete the amount of testosterone you have in your body.
I don't think we need to be entirely afraid of pursuing or engaging in things that release dopamine. Obviously, healthy sexual behavior, food that we love, social engagement, all of these things can be dopaminergic. It's the big peaks in dopamine that are not associated with any prior effort or organization of self that are particularly dangerous for the human being.